In 1826, a French inventor called Joseph Niepce took what is widely considered to be the first photograph. It was called View from the Window at Le Gras, and it took 8 hours to expose. It was done using a process called heliography, which worked by spreading a thin layer of tar over a plate of either copper, glass, zinc, or limestone. And after the exposure process, the tar would harden in the places of most light, creating a negative of the image. The sections without hardened tar would be exposed to acid to give it texture so that it could hold ink. The image it produced was grainy and hard to make out, but it was revolutionary. Niepce partnered with Louis Daguerre, and after Niepce's death, Daguerre improved the process with the help of Niepce's son. In 1839, Daguerre introduced the daguerreotype, which produced a detailed image in under 30 minutes using an almost completely different process. The daguerreotype became the first commercially successful photography method. Because of Daguerre and Niepce, photography was officially introduced to the public, although mainly for the wealthy. But not everybody was using metal plates. In England, inventor William Henry Fox Talbot developed a different method around the same time. He used paper negatives, which meant he could make multiple prints from a single image, something daguerreotypes couldn't do. His process, called the calotype, laid the foundation for film photography that would dominate for over a century. These methods had their limits. They were expensive, required long exposures, and used hazardous chemicals like the mercury used in the daguerreotype. But then came a game changer. Enter George Eastman, founder of Kodak. In 1888, Eastman released the first consumer camera, called the Kodak No. 1. It came preloaded with 100 exposures. After finishing the roll, users mailed the camera back to Kodak, and the company developed the photos and sent them back with the camera reloaded with new film. Their famous slogan, "You press the button, we do the rest." For the first time, ordinary people, not just scientists, artists, or the wealthy, could document their lives. In the early 1900s, photography exploded. It became a tool for journalism, science, art, and personal memory making. By the 1920s and 30s, cameras were becoming faster, smaller, and more portable, and this completely changed what photography could do. One of the biggest breakthroughs was the invention of the Leica camera in 1925 Germany. It was the first widely used camera to use 35mm film, which made it compact enough to carry around easily, and fast enough to capture spontaneous, real-life moments. This marked the beginning of a new era of photojournalism. Now photographers weren't just taking stage pictures, they were out in the streets, in war zones, in protests, capturing the world as it was happening. Some of the most iconic images in history were taken using these compact film cameras. Robert Capa's haunting photos of soldiers landing on D-Day during World War II. Dorothea Lange's Migrant Mother, which put a face to the struggles of the Great Depression, and later Gordon Parks, one of the first black photojournalists for Life magazine, used photography to highlight injustice and poverty in America, helping spark conversations that fueled the civil rights movement. These images didn't just inform people, they moved them. They helped people feel the reality of what was going on in the world, even if they were thousands of miles away. Around the same time, color photography began to develop, although slowly at first. Most photographers were still shooting in black and white, but in 1935, Kodak introduced Kodachrome film. It gave photographers the ability to shoot in vivid, long-lasting color, and became hugely popular for magazines, family photos, and documenting everyday life. For the first time, people weren't just seeing history in black and white, they were seeing it in color. But the 1950s and 60s, color photography had become a major part of how people saw the world. It brought civil rights marches, the Vietnam War, and even the first man on the moon into color for people around the globe. Then came the digital age, and with it, photography was completely transformed again. The first digital cameras appeared in the late 1980s and early 1990s. At its core, digital photography begins in the same way as traditional photography. Light enters through a lens, but instead of hitting film or tar on a metal plate, the light hits a digital image sensor. These sensors contain millions of photosites, which measure the intensity of light at each pixel location. The sensor converts this light into electrical signals, which are then turned into digital data or numbers that represent brightness and color. This process happens nearly instantly, allowing these digital cameras to show a preview of the image before it's even saved. That meant no film to buy and no waiting for a roll to be developed at the drugstore. For the first time ever, you could see your photo instantly, delete it, retake it, and shoot hundreds more, all on the same device. At first, digital cameras were expensive and not high quality, but that changed fast. Phones began transforming into cameras in the early 2000s. starting with Japan's Sharp J-SH04 in 2000, the world's first camera phone. At first, image quality was poor with resolutions under 1 megapixel, but improvements came fast. By the mid-2000s, phones like the Sony Ericsson K750 and the first iPhone introduced cameras that could rival simple digital cameras. Soon, features like autofocus, flash, and editing apps made phones a convenient all-in-one photography tool. Today, smartphones dominate photography. Devices like the iPhone 16 and Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra include multiple lenses, 48 to 200 megapixel sensors, and advanced AI that adjusts lighting, focus, and color instantly. Features like night mode, portrait blur, 4K video, and raw image capture are now standard. Over 90% of all photos taken today come from phones, not because they replaced cameras, but because they have become powerful cameras themselves. We now take over 1.8 trillion photos a year. It's more than 5 billion photos per day. From blurry 8-hour exposure on a pewter plate in 1826 to over 5 billion images captured every single day, photography has come an astonishingly long way. We've gone from fragile glass plates to film rolls to digital sensors and neural processors that can edit a photo before we even press the shutter. In just under 2 centuries, photography has transformed from a rare, expensive process into something so ordinary and effortless that we barely think about it. Yet it's one of the most powerful ways we document our lives, tell stories, and remember the world around us.